All right, once again, my name is Nob. So I'm back with a third part for this topic. The question is Esau the progenitor of the so-called white race? And if you watched the other video, the second part 2, I ended it with Esau's the blessing that he had, and his blessing was after supposedly he lost his birthright from Jacob. He thought Jacob stole it, so he went back to his father Isaac and begged for another blessing. He begged his father, I mean, do you have at least one more blessing left? You know, at least give me something. I can't go and live and be a bum. Please give me something. Water. So his father said, okay, all right. I got one more blessing for you. This is what I can do for you. I mean, you're gonna be a nation. You're gonna live by your sword, but you still gotta serve your brother Jacob. But you're gonna serve him. You're gonna live by your sword while you serve him, and eventually you're gonna break away from him, and free yourself. You know. So that was Esau's the prophecy for Esau. So Esau lived Mount Seir. Esau is doing his thing as a nation, became big, while the nation Israel, they were slaves in Egypt, and they left Egypt. Then they came, and they were trying to go to the land the Most High promised them, and they had to go through Esau's land. I broke all that down in the other video. And they went. Moses sent messages to the king of Edom. Said, "Look, let us come through. You're not gonna steal none of your stuff. If we even touch anything, we'll pay you back for it. We're not. That's not why we're here. We're just gonna come through. You just gotta go to our land. You know." And the king of Edom said, "Look, go away. If you guys don't listen, bad things gonna happen to you guys." And they had to turn around and say, "Oh wow, okay, these guys are supposed to be our brothers, and the Lord already tell us don't hate them, because don't hate no Edomites, because they are our brothers. But look at how our brothers treat us, you know." So it's almost like as if the nation of Edom, they still had the spirit of Esau in them, their father, their eponymous ancestor. They still had that spirit, that hate, that envy against Jacob. And at this point, it was against the Israelites, where they know they left Egypt. Now they're trying to go to a nice land to live good, and Edom say, "No, that's not happening." You know, but the prophecy, the birthright already said that even though Esau doing it big and Jacob wasn't doing anything yet, still Jacob, the Israelites, they had the birthright. So eventually the Israelites managed to get to, they went around wherever, managed to get to their land and settle. And then when they had their first king, King David, and then King David had a son named Solomon. Both kings dealt with Esau. Both of them subdued Esau and had Esau servants under the nation Israel, because the nation Israel is supposed to be the brother, supposed to be from the brother that's supposed to be on top, which is Jacob. So in the time of King David and King Solomon's, Esau became subservient to the nation Israel. And then eventually King Solomon messed up And then he didn't really follow the Most High's laws the way he was supposed to follow. He went and did a bunch of things. He knew he could have multiple wives, but he went against the law that says a king not supposed to have too many wives. And he had 700 wives and 300 concubines. So he had way more. And it says a king not supposed to multiply horses after horses. He went in and kept sending people to breaking two laws. Laws saying don't go back to Egypt. He kept sending people to Egypt to get them horses. Two laws at once. A law that says don't be buying a bunch of horses. Don't be buying a bunch of Lambos, Ferraris in those days. Those were the horses of Egypt. You know. So he was he had some type of he had a thing for the horses of Egypt. So he kept sending people back to Egypt to buy him horses, having people break the law, because in Deuteronomy 28:68, that is a law. It is a scripture that a lot of those Israelites on the street, they love to quote it. But a lot of time they have no idea what it's saying. They love to say, Deuteronomy 28:68, brother, go read it for me. The Lord shall take thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I speak unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto for bondmen and bondwomen. You shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall save thee. See, that means, in the 1600s, it was slave ships, and then Egypt means bondage. So it's not really talking about the other Egypt. It's talking about America, because it means bondage. You guys are on crack. It means nothing like that. Just let it say what it says. Don't add words into it. The Lord shall take thee unto Egypt again. You know why it says again? Because it's referring to the same Egypt, the old Egypt. The Lord shall take thee unto Egypt again. Just the word again should give you a clue. It's not talking about America, because the nation of Israel did not go to America twice. So you played yourself. Again, the Lord shall take thee unto Egypt again. Again. You really don't understand what the word again means? Again. That's what it means. So, just from the first line, you guys are just bugged out. So imagine, I don't even need to go to keep going to show how you guys mess up on the next line. In the next line. You guys, I don't know where you get your breakdowns from, but that's not the topic. That's save that for another time. I don't need to break that verse down. So Esau settled, and I said, time of King David, it's King Solomon. They made Esau pay, and Esau became servants, and then the nation Israel, because of Solomon, messed up. Then they were divided. They became two nations. So during that time, Esau still watching, scheming. See how Esau, you have other scriptures that says Esau plotting to take the lands and enslave the nation of Israel. And to make things worse, after the nation of Israel split in two, the northern kingdom, 10 tribes, being led by the tribe of Ephraim, and the southern kingdom, Judah, and then the Assyrian king enslaved the northern tribes because they were acting evil. So now the nation of Israel, Esau watching, the nation of Israel became weaker and weaker and weaker. So he's plotting, he's scheming. And then to make things worse, the Babylonians now came for the southern kingdom and dealt with them, because they them also stopped following the Most High's laws. And that's when Esau came, trying to help the Babylonians, destroying the nation, kingdom of Judah, helping. That's what when you read the prophecies in both Jeremiah and Obadiah. In fact, We're gonna go to Jeremiah 49 verse 7 to 11. That's talking about because now I'm gonna get into a little bit of the history with Esau until, because I'm trying to I'm tracing Esau all the way from his beginning to a nation and all the way to his end, to see if these people, the Edomites, can be the ancestors of the so-called white race. So Jeremiah 49 verse 7. So Babylonians came against Judah, and Jeremiah was living in the time of the Babylonian invasion. In fact, when the Babylonian came, because there was a puppet the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar put in Israel, Jeremiah, Baruch, and some other Israelites, they went down with that. That puppet ended up being murdered or killed. And when Nebuchadnezzar came to deal with the Israelites responsible for killing the puppet that he set up, Jeremiah, Baruch, and a bunch of Israelites, they ran to Egypt. Although they know the Lord say, by the way whereof in Deuteronomy 28:68, it is in the law, in the Torah, that says, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt not see it no more again. Meaning, it's a law. Don't ever take your butt back to Egypt. Thou shalt not see it no more again. Thou shalt not. The way you know it's a law, the law is written like a law. Thou shalt not do this. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness. In Deuteronomy 26:8, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, the way is Egypt. I spake unto thee, thou shalt not see it no more again. Meaning, you guys never supposed to go back to Egypt. Most I say, guess what? And there in Egypt, ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. So Jeremiah and Baruch and all their dudes, after this dude that Nebuchadnezzar set up as a puppet got killed, Jeremiah knew if Nebuchadnezzar come and catch him with the other people that did this thing, it wasn't going to be good. So they all fled to Egypt. And that's how the Israelites, that's how they started that elephantine, whatever kingdom in Egypt. So, Jeremiah 49, verse 7.
Concerning Edom, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Is there no longer wisdom in Teman? Has counsel perished from the prudent? Has their wisdom decayed? Turn and flee, hide in deep caves. You who live in Dedan.
Yeah.
For I will bring disaster on Esau at the time when I punish him. If grape pickers came to you, would they not leave a few grapes? If thieves came during the night, would they not steal only as much as they wanted? But I will strip Esau bare. I will uncover his hiding places so that he cannot conceal himself. His armed men are destroyed, also his allies and neighbors. So there is no one to say, leave your fatherless children, I will keep them alive. Your widows too can depend on me.
Is that verse 11 yet?
Yeah. That was
okay. So basically Jeremiah was prophesying against Esau, because Esau, he'd been up to no good against the nation of Israel. So Jeremiah was because Jeremiah was living in the time of the Babylonian captivity time. Before the Babylonians came, like I said, Jeremiah already fled. But Jeremiah was telling Esau, the Most High was mocking Esau, like, look, you guys got no smart people to let you know what's about to go down. You guys, only if you knew, bad things coming for you guys. Bad things. And then another prophet talk, you see, when those Israelites and those Christianites, Israelites believing Christians, those black Israelites on the streets, When they read Jeremiah in their mind, they think it's talking about America. It's a prophecy for America. No, it's not a prophecy for America. Jeremiah was talking to the nation of Edom back then. Say, look, you guys are in deep trouble. Trouble is coming for you guys. It wasn't talking about no America. You guys are in deep trouble. The Most High are going to destroy you guys. And Edom, I guess, they didn't believe. They stay there. And then another prophet that lived in the same time as Jeremiah, Prophet Obadiah. Well, you don't need to read this because Obadiah wrote a whole chapter on Esau. We would have to read the whole chapter, which we're not. That would take the whole night to break a whole chapter down. But basically, in summary, but that chapter was just talking about, yo, Esau, bad things coming for you. That's right before the Babylonians came and dealt with Esau. Bad things coming for you. And Obadiah said, look, not one of you guys going to be left in the land. All of you going to be out of Edom, out of Mount Seir. All of you going to go. When the enemies of Most High sent to you guys to destroy you guys because you guys been acting funny against the nation of Israel. So the prophecy and Obadiah, again, is not for America. Like you guys say, no, it's talking about America. How do you know? Because it says Esau, he lives like an eagle. You know, he climbed, whatever, he climbed all the way to the stars. Oh, you see, that means he went to the moon. All those BS. No. That's just allegorical talk. Yeah, that's the word. That's just allegories Prophet Obadiah was using. Say, look, Esau, nation of Edom, bad things coming for you. You guys are about to be totally annihilated off that land, Mount Seir, completely. And there's no hope for you guys because you guys already did enough. You guys did too much, so you guys are gonna be punished. And then when you read Malachi now, Malachi, in fact, in Malachi, okay, I don't think I put Malachi, but in the book of Malachi, if you read it, I'll post it up there. Malachi now, after Jeremiah and Obadiah told Esau what's coming, Malachi came and talked now after it already happened to Esau. So you see, they did tell you guys bad thing was going to happen, and guess what? So Malachi, whoever wrote the book of Malachi, actually witnessed what took place, what happened to Esau. So Jeremiah and Obadiah prophesied what's going to happen to Esau, and Malachi came back and said, look, it happened. And what happened to Esau? The Babylonians that Esau was helping to try to mess with the kingdom of Judah, Babylonians turned against them and almost destroyed them. And to make things worse, a group of nomads, Ishmaelite nomads, when I say Ishmaelites, I mean Arabs, nomads came, and one main one was called the Nabateans. The Nabateans came. Josephus talks about the Nabateans. When they came, they really dealt with Esau. They totally destroyed Esau. Esau had to run. Every single Edomite left Mount Seir, south of Jordan, up there, and they went all the way south of the kingdom of Judah to go hide, to go stay. So first you had Esau in Mount Seir. They had the Edomite kingdom there. Then they got destroyed. The Babylonian came and slapped them. The Nabatean came and finished them. Whoever survived ran all the way down. I wish I'm going to put the map of Judah, the southern kingdom, and where Edom was. That was the second Edom. That's why when Obadiah and Jeremiah said Esau going to be totally destroyed, they were totally destroyed. It's not talking about no America. That's history that already happened. And then they went in and settled. They went and settled south of Judah. So far from those videos, the first, second, and third. I'm tracing. I'm trying to trace Esau all the way from the beginning, from the first guy named Esau, and to Edom, to the Edomites, all in the beginning. This is the third video now. And then when they got annihilated, their land totally got destroyed and they were pushed down. And then the new people that stay in their land and Mount Seir were the Nabateans. And they kept that land forever. The nation of Edom never went back there. Never went back to that land ever again. So they stayed down there. So now I'm up to where Esau is now, in another location. Edom was transferred, was relocated from up there to down there, south of Judah. Now they stay there. They stay there for a while. After the 586 BC, because that's the time they were relocated. Around that time, the same time when the first temple that was built by King Solomon was destroyed, burned down by the Babylonians, and the Babylonians stole all the gold there. So that happened to Judah, and most of the Judites from the southern kingdom, they were taken to Babylon for 70 years as slaves. And then at that point in the Israelite history, when the Babylonians came in and burned down the temple and took the last king, the last puppet king that he had set up, and that dude went against him. So Nebuchadnezzar dealt with him and brought him to Babylon. And before he popped his eyes, both eyes, he killed all his children in front of him to make sure there would never be any more kings. And from the southern kingdom, the house of King David. So when you see in the New Testament now, you see there's a guy named Jesus. Say he's the son of David, as if, then they give you two fake genealogies about him. One in Matthew, one in Luke, trying to trace him back to the last king of Judah, knowing that the last king of Judah, Jeconiah, all his sons were killed. And then Nebuchadnezzar had both of his eyes popped and they put him in jail. So, and he stayed in jail. It's not like he had kids in jail to have more kids. No. So the writers of the New Testaments, you guys are a bunch of lies. Bunch of lies. If you really analyze the Old Testaments, I don't know what books you guys were using to write the book of Matthew. Bunch of lies. The last king of Judah the last king of Judah didn't have any seed left. That's why it's called, if you Google it, the curse of Jeconiah. You type the curse of Jeconiah, you'll see all the scriptures. Jeremiah talk about it. First Kings, Chronicles, all those books talk about that. The last king of the kingdom of Judah, they killed all his sons. And after that, when the nation of Israel, all the top families, the royal families, were taken to Babylon for 70 years. Even Ezekiel was taken as slaves over there. Jeremiah, he fled before the Babylonians came. He fled to Egypt. Him and Baruch, because these two, they were like Batman and Robin. They were close. So the nation of Israel went and spent 70 years there, and when they came back, there were no more kings from the nation of Israel. They knew the whole line was done away with the David line. There were no son left for them to trace, because all the kings had to come from the line of David. Nebuchadnezzar makes sure he did away with all the sons. the son of the last king, to make sure that no more king. And well, I have other videos that talk more about that. Trace it all the way from Josiah to the last four kings of the nation of Israel, and that was it. The last four kings, and they were all, three of them were Josiah's sons, and one of them was Josiah's grandson. I mean, these are not mysteries. These are things, if you read the Bible, it's just like a history book. You read it, you should understand it. The only way you would not know it if you don't read it. But if you read it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So now, nation of Israel went be slaves in Babylon, came back after 70 years, and those prophets that were there, Ezra, he came with a letter from Persia, because 70 years in Persia took over Babylon, and in Persia, the Persian king Cyrus, I believe, give Ezra a letter, say, look, go back to your land with all your people. This letter will give you the authority to rebuild the temple, because when Babylon came, he took all the royal families and brought them to Babylon. They said he only left the lower class people, the nobodies. That's why Persian king had to give Ezra a letter, say, look, I'm giving you authority. Go back, you, Nehemiah, go do your thing. Go rebuild the temple. Whoever's against this, let me know. Then I'll be glad to come down here. I bet you they're going to change their mind, because I don't play around. So Ezra, Nehemiah, and all the others, they went there and then they rebuilt the temple for a second time. The temple that the Babylonian burned down. And Esau, the topic is still Esau. Esau's still scheming down there. Still causing trouble off and on with Israel. So Persian time, little conflict off and on. And then the Greeks came running stuff. And you had a dynasty that the Israelites formed, called the Hasmonean dynasty. You had this dude named Judas Maccabees, and he had a brother named John that was the high priest, Hyrcanus. So these guys didn't play, and they were Levites. They didn't play. So they knew Esau was still over there in Edom, south of Judah, causing trouble. So they went to Esau. The Edomites. They told them, you guys, the trouble's over. No more trouble from you guys. All of you gotta be circumcised. And all of you gotta start following the Torah. There's no if and there's no but. And then all the Edomites got converted. And during those days, the Israelites didn't even call themselves Israelites anymore. At that point, they already started calling themselves Jews. So all those Edomites who were converted and they had to practice the Torah, the laws, especially they had to circumcise themselves. They were no more Edomites. They were Edomite Jews. So at that point, descendant of two brothers, Jacob and Esau, they became one. Maybe there was a little bit of animosity, a little bit, but they became one because now the Edomites, they were following the Torah willfully, and they became one with us, and they were Jews. They became Jews. That's why in the time of so-called Jesus, the New Testament, the CE time, the AD time, the Common Era time, you had a Edomite king in the early Common Era time, AD time. You had an Edomite king. In those days, they didn't even call them Edomite anymore because after the Greeks, they were Idumeans. Idumea, the land was changed from Edom to Idumea. Well, I guess according to the Greek version, where was people who spoke Greek when they were writing it. So the Idumeans, Edomite, no more Edomites. Then at the time of so-called Jesus, you had a king named King Herod. And the so-called New Testament, which I don't follow, it literally tells you Herod was a Edomite, Idumean king. So at that time, those two people, they became one. And they mingled, they co-mingled, they became one. Meaning, the same way when the nation of Israel went to Babylon, before you know it, they mixed with the Babylonians. These people who became one following their laws, that means they were mixing Israelites and Edomites. And they will both call themselves Jews. So which means, for you guys who say Esau, still saying Esau is the father of the white people. So, and then at the same time say the Israelites were black and all black. So now you have black people now. Half of them are black. The other half, according to you guys, white, mixing. What would happen to the nation of Israel? They'll be like Dominicans now. They'll be mixed. They'll be like Drakes. Some would be white, some would be black, and some would be mixed. That's what would have happened if that was true. So that's how I know you guys are lies. Well, a lot of you lying. That's because that's how you were taught, not because you want to lie. Because I used to be like that too. I used to teach that because that's what I was taught. So when I say you lies, a lot of you are not really willful lies. I'm just saying the thing that you're saying is false. It still wouldn't make sense. So now, so that was that time now, the so-called Jesus time. So I took it all the way from Esau, all the way maybe 1800 BC, if I want to put a time on it, because it was not too far from Abraham time. All the way from Esau, all the way from the birth of Esau, let's say around 1800 BC. Because it says the nation of Israel with Jacob, Esau's brother, gonna go to Egypt for 400 years. And then the nation of Israel left Egypt around 1400 BC. So I'm putting 400 years on top of that. That's 1800. Around 1800, let's say that's the birth of Esau. So I took it all the way from 1800. Now I went all the way down. I just gave you 1800 years of history with Esau. What Esau did. And what happened now? Let's just so-called 1 AD, 2 AD. With King Herod, one thing I want to say with King Herod. The second temple. If you guys go read books, even Google, you'll see they always say King Herod built the second temple. Although we know that's not really 100% true, because it already says Nehemiah and them, after they left Persia, they came in and built it. But when you really go deeper into what that means, that Herod the Great built the temple, he didn't really build it. He renovated it to a point where supposedly he made King Solomon's temple look, well, maybe not King Solomon's temple, but whatever Nehemiah and Ezra did with that temple, he took it to the next level. And then even in the so-called New Testament, nobody had beef with him fixing, doing that to the temple, because the Edomites, they were already Jews. They were already following the Torah. They were already in the temple. Because according to the law, the Most High says, do not abhor an Edomite. And it says after a few generations, Esau can be in the temple, can be with us, and can be part of the nation of Israel, can be part of the congregation, can be one with us. So Esau became one with us. So now, Jesus supposedly 1 AD, then he did 33 years and he died. So Edomites and Israelites together. And then a few 40 years later, some crazy thing happened to the nation of Israel. Now I'm giving you history. The Romans had beef with the Israelites. They somehow, Israelites That's like now, like Haitians, you cannot force them to be slaves. They're gonna fight, they're gonna rebel. That's the spirit. So those Israelites were still fighting the Romans. All the Romans had more power. So 70 AD, Rome sent these two idiots, Romans, to deal with the nation of Israel, Titus and Vespasian. Those two guys came, they totally demolished the temple. They totally destroyed it. They did worse than what Babylon did. They destroyed it to the point where there was nothing standing. And then later on, what happened? The Muslim came and they built the Dome of the Rock on the temple where the temple was, which is crazy. That's how much the Romans destroyed, totally brought down the temple like to powder. So by the time the Muslims came, maybe about 700 years later, or maybe a little bit more, I don't know what time exactly they built the Dome of the Rock. But after the Muslim came, then they totally built their mosque, their Muslim temple, right on the site where King Solomon built the temple. So that means if the Most High had to come back and put the nation of Israel back to the land and rebuild the temple, the first thing he would have to do is burn down that damn mosque. That's the site for the nation of Israel temple. So the mosque has nothing to do with the nation of Israel. So the Most High would have to totally turn it to sand, blow it up, because that's the site of the temple. So when the Romans came, this is the last point I'm going to make. When the Romans came, they totally demolished the temple. They killed a lot of Israelites and Edomites because they were one. A bunch of them fled to some mountain called Mount Masada. They went into living like cannibals, eating people, eating their kids, eating their wives, eating their husband, whatever it is. That's what happened in Mount Masada. And some the Romans enslaved and sent to Egypt again in ships and wherever they wanted to send them, wherever else, but definitely in Egypt with ships. Like Deuteronomy 26:8 said, the Lord shall take thee into Egypt again with ships. It definitely happened 70 AD. And those who didn't get caught, this is the second point I'm going to make because I already made one point. If Esau was the father of the white man mixing with the Israelites, white people mixing with blacks. So, there should be black, white, and mixed people there because they were mixing. That's the type of nation Israel should have been if Esau was really the father, the progenitor of the so-called white race. Not even so-called white nation, you guys say. Race. So, those who didn't get slaughtered by the Romans, they fled to Africa and other different parts of the world. But a lot of them fled to Africa, especially west coast of Africa. So, and then fast forward down our time, slavery time, the so-called white man went to Africa and took a bunch of slaves from the west coast of Africa and brought them to Haiti, Jamaica, and all these other lands. How come in the slave ships you didn't have white people there? If Esau, who fled, some of them, because they were one. If Israelites fled there, that means they together, married together, they have kids, children. When the husband fled, the wife fled also. The children fled with them. So the whole family fled to Africa. So how come when the white man went to west coast of Africa, there were no white Israelites living in? There was a kingdom called Kingdom of Judah in Africa. How come there was no white people there? Only people that was like dark skin, just like the Haitians. Only niggas, only Negroes. How come? What happened? They left the white ones there. They just brought the black ones. They left the Edomites there in Africa. I guess that's what they did. That's how I know you guys are lying with that Esau, the father of the progenitor of the so-called white race. So that means slavery days and slavery times. Especially me, I can speak for the Haitians. I cannot speak for the other people because I wasn't born there, but I can definitely speak for Haiti. Those slaves, my ancestors that were slaves in Haiti, every single last one of them were dark skinned niggas. Not one of them was white. The only white ones were the one that came from Spain, not from Africa. So when they went to Nigeria, when they took a bunch of Negroes and enslaved them, and they brought them to America, how come they only brought the black ones? And there were no dark ones in Nigeria. There was no dark one in Guinea. There were no dark ones in Dahomey. Wherever Israelites were living, there were never any white ones there. So that means when all these Negroes, niggas that were Israelites, dark-skinned Negroes, niggas, Negros, Noir, black, whatever you want to call them, when they fled to Africa and then they were brought to America, and the fact that all the boats in all Haiti were all dark-skinned, that means the Edomites were also niggas, Negroes, blacks, Negros, because those two nations, they came from the same parents, Rebecca and Isaac. So no, when I started, I said emphatically, no, Esau is not the progenitor of the so-called white race. So with this, I'm gonna say to you guys who's teaching this, congratulations, you play yourself. I'm gonna say shalom.